Our first speaker this evening is Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Poupko. Rav Poupko received his smicha from Yeshivat Ner Yisrael and continued his post-smicha studies in the Kodshim Chabura of Beit Midrash Gvoha of Lakewood, where he was appointed to teach a course in Torah ethics, the Musavad, by Rav Shneur Kotler. He co-founded the Yeshiva in Kollel, Miami, the Yeshiva College of Florida, and served as its Associate Dean of Yeshivat Or Torah in Efrat. And in 1986, he founded the Yeshiva Knesset Beit Eliezer. As a reservist in the IDF, Rabbi Poupko served as a non-commissioned officer in Lebanon, Gaza, and Golan Heights, and lectured for over 7 years in the IDF Officers Institute. He has also taught at the overseas programs, both at the Hebrew University and at Bar Ilan. He currently lectures here at the Israel Center, where he also serves as rabbinic consultant. In addition, Rav Poupko represented the Orthodox Union in its debate with the leadership of Israel's reform movement. Many of his weekly Torah lectures have been broadcast on Israel radio. One of the lectures he gave at the Yahrzeit Institute was included in an anthology of contemporary Israeli thought, published by Yediot Ahronot, and some of his articles have appeared in the Hadorom Scholarly Journal. He has served as scholar in residence for numerous congregations in England, Australia, South Africa, and in the States, including the Spanish-Portuguese Synagogue of Manhattan and various synagogues in Israel. The Supreme Court of Queens, in New York, selected him 3 times to lecture the judges' weekly study group. However, none of these very impressive accomplishments and appointments are why I invited Rav Poupko to speak here this evening. Let it be known that Rav Poupko had the gift of getting Yaakov into a good debate. Could I even call it an argument for the sake of heaven? At our table on many a Shabbat, on topics of Torah and many others, and Yaakov was in his element in these very lively, sometimes heated discussions. I would look on, happy that Yaakov had such an excellent partner with whom to engage on a level befitting 2 such brilliant minds. I am privileged and greatly honored to invite Rav Poupko to come and say a few words.
Mishum Rabbi Yaakov, Kol HaMa'anik Es HaShabbos Noisen Lo Nachla B'li Mitzorim. Those who properly delight in the Shabbos will be given a boundless share. Shenemar, as it says, As Tisana Gal Hashem V'yirkavticha Bonos Hayoretz V'achalticha Nachlas Yaakov. It says that if you are Mishav Misheves Raglecha Me'asos Chafratzecha, if you treat Shabbos properly, you will get Nachala B'li Mitzarim. How do we know that you will get this boundless share? Because Yeshayahu HaNavi continues this pasuk by saying, as it says, Tisana Gal Hashem V'yirkavticha B'mos Hayoretz V'achalticha Nachlas Yaakov Avicha. Those who keep Shabbat properly will be given the share of Yaakov. From where, however, do we get this notion that the share of Yaakov is a boundless share, a nachal b'li mitzarim? Continues the Gemara, and it says, Lo ka'Avraham shekatuv bo kol kumis alecha oretz lo'orko l'rochba, not like the share of Avraham Avinu, which is limited by its length and its breadth, v'lo ki Yitzchak, and nor will one be limited as Yitzchak was, as it says in reference to Yitzchak. These and only these lands do I give to you. That if you keep Shabbos, you get Nachlat Yaakov, in reference to whom it instead says, Ufaratzta yama v'kedma v'tzafona v'negba. You will burst out north, south, east, and west. First of all, if anybody takes a look at the life of Yaakov Avinu, one would think that being promised a life like his actually constitutes some kind of a booby prize. We know that when Paro asked Yaakov Avinu about his age, he gave him a lot more information than he had ever requested. He said, Yemei shnei megurai shloshimu ma'as shona ma'atra imhoyu. He said, my life, there wasn't much to it, and it was entirely bad. And he said, don't think that my life is better than that of father and grandfather. My life was far worse than that of than my father Yitzchak and grandfather Avraham. I never had any of that security and dignity that my father and grandfather had. I was born into a state of sibling rivalry with a murderous twin. Then I had to run away, and I was subjected to the tender mercies of loving for about 20 years. After that, I thought I'd have a few moments of peace. Bikesh Yaakov Lashevet B'Shalva, and then the entire long saga and ordeal of Yosef began. And then, by the time that issue was settled, I find myself an alien in a foreign land. That's the life of Yaakov as described by himself. So what in the world is Yeshayahu Navi doing by telling us that if you keep the Shabbat properly, you're going to get the Nachla of Yaakov, as if having Yaakov's life constitutes some kind of an incentive. And more than that, what is the meaning of this pasuk in Yeshayahu clearly letting us know that there is a special relationship between Shabbos and Yaakov of all the three of us? The truth of the matter is, if you take a look at the contrast between the two psukim of Abraham and Yitzchak on one hand, and the one of Yaakov on the other, you'll find a different contrast than the one Rabbi Yossi had just said explicitly. Rabbi Yossi said that the obvious distinction is that in reference to Abraham and Yitzchak, it places certain limits. In reference to Abraham, it's breadth and width, lower kal rochba. In reference to Yitzchak, it's kol ha'alatzot ha'el, specifically these. But Yaakov's is boundless. You'll burst out north, south, east, and west. But if you look carefully, there's one more very sharp distinction that Rabbi Yaakov does not point to explicitly. And that is this. The two psukim of Abraham and Yitzchak speak of the land. Hitalech ha'aretz lo'orka u'rachba. Take over the land by its length and its breadth. The one in reference to Yitzchak says, Kol ha'aratzot ha'el natati l'cha u'lezaracha. Specifically, these lands do I give to you. But the pasuk of Yaakov does not even speak of land. Ufaratzta yama v'keima v'tzafona v'nedba. Instead of speaking of the land, it speaks of Yaakov's very self. The distinctiveness of Yaakov is in the degree to which he has himself. What does this mean? We know that Abraham and Yitzchak are represented Kabbalistically as the right chesed, which is Avraham Avinu, gvura, which is Yitzchak. Chesed droa yamina, gvura droa smala. Each of these two dynamics, the two of Avraham and Yitzchak, chesed and gvura, is legitimate only within certain limited bounds. The indiscriminate outward reach of chesed, blurring distinctions between people, is called znut when it's outside of its legitimate perimeters. The personal force of gevura, driving the individual to achieve distinctiveness, is called murder, ritzicha, when it is outside of its perimeters. But although there is such a thing as gevura outside of its bounds, and chesed beyond its legitimate perimeters, there is no such thing as Torah outside of its borders. Yaakov is the pillar of Torah. It is everything that finds its place within Torah. The Torah, on the other hand, is limited by nothing. Yaakov, as the Amud HaTorah, is Kabbalistically represented not as the right or the left, this dynamic or the other dynamic. He is instead represented as Tiferet, Gufa, the body. He represents not a specific dynamic, but the very being of Am Yisrael itself. He alone amongst the patriarchs was told, Anochi ereid imcha Mitzrayma. Your very being will establish the presence of the Shekhinah in Egypt. Anochi ereid imcha Mitzrayma. Your very presence there establishes the presence of godliness itself. What greater expression could there be of Ufaratsta Yoma V'Kedma V'Tzafona V'Nedba, the guarantee that wherever he goes, that in itself establishes the presence of the Shekhinah. His identity is in the power of his very being rather than in the specifics of his doing. The days of the week are called Yemei Ma'aseh, the time of doing. What is the opposite of doing? Being. Whereas the days of the week represent achieving, doing, Shabbos instead is the time of being, the time of the already achieved existence. Therefore, the Navi Yeshayahu tells us that when we delight in Shabbat, we are tasting of the Nachal of B'li B'tzarim, the boundless share that is a distinctly Yaakov's. And if ever there was a man whose Shabbat was truly boundless, Nachal of B'li B'tzarim, it is Yaakov Fogelman. He graciously shared his Shabbos with thousands of people from all over the world, enabling his spirit and his ideas to realize the bracha of Ufaratsta Yom V'Kedma V'Tzafona V'Nedba. I personally was able to witness one of Yaakov Fogelman's most remarkable acts of graciousness. Week after week after week, Shabbos after Shabbos after Shabbos, Yaakov Fogelman would invite to eat and sleep at his house a person who would constantly take issue with his opinions and even occasionally ridicule them. How he put up with this behavior of mine, I will never know. Even after bumping into me a number of times in the hall at 2 or 3 a.m., he continued to have me over at his place for Shabbos. He was, however, very, very handsomely rewarded for this. For Yaakov Fogelman was able to see his aristocratic character reflected in his own children. The princely behavior of all of his children reminds us that there is no better educational technique than simply setting an example. The goodness and wisdom of Yaakov, and of course Ruth, is easily apparent in the nobility of their children. Because of his children, it is wonderful for us to be able to watch and see a bracha come true before we even say it. Yehei Zichro Baruch.